What's up, everybody? Adam here, and welcome back to the weekly comic book haul. Today, we're going to be looking at the books picked up on December the 16th of 2015. A lot of books this week. Only one extra that I bought, mainly because I need to start apparently looking at the covers before deciding on my purchases. So we're going to go straight into the haul. And I'm going to start with the book that I grabbed on accident. We have here The Amazing Spider-Man 1.1. I thought this was the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Had I known this was essentially a side story type of thing, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. So this is probably the only one of this I'm going to get. At least it has a cool cover, so it's got that going for it. Next up, a book I thought I bought a while ago and didn't. Squadron Supreme #1. This is the book I was looking for, that I accidentally bought the #4 Secret Wars title. So, really looking forward to this one. This is the book that kind of was the center of the Avengers Zero, so I'm very curious to see what's going on in this story. The Avengers Zero story made it seem kind of like a cabal to take on the Avengers or something. I don't know. It's a very interesting idea, so I'm curious to see what goes on in this title. Next up, I haven't had a chance to read the first one yet, but we have All New XMen #2. This is also a really super swanky cover. I like the two Cyclopses going on here. I think they did a cover like this recently, or by recently I mean in the previous All New X-Men or Uncanny X-Men runs. But I really do like the cover of Cyclops here and then the other Cyclops in the reflection of his visor. I think that's really cool looking. Next up, one I'm actually pretty excited about, Mighty Thor #2. I really enjoyed the first book. I haven't really gotten into any Thor titles ever, to be honest. And the first one really drew me in. I like the whole, kind of felt like Star Wars to some extent with the episode 1, even though that might sound like a bad thing. But I like how they have this intergalactic council that gets together and talks about stuff, and there's a war that's going to be going on, it looks like. So I'm really excited to see what's going to go on in issue 2 here. Next up, Uncanny Inhumans #3. So far, pretty dang good series. Really been enjoying it. I do kind of like how the Marvel Universe is shifting a little bit to be kind of like a balance between the Avengers and the Inhumans now, more so than the Avengers and the X-Men. So it's very interesting seeing the kind of shift in the universe to include what I kind of feel is lesser tier characters on top tier now. So I'm very curious to see how they continue running this series, especially when it's got some interesting stuff going on like time travel and stuff like that. So very interested to see what they're going to keep doing. Then we have Web Warriors #2. I absolutely love the first issue. It pretty much was what I was hoping for. It is very much sort of an Exiles meets Spider-Man type of thing, where the Spider people all come together and fight different things. And the very first issue was them fighting the 1970s, I want to say, animated Spider-Man. They even had the Spider-Man sitting behind a desk meme in the comics. So it was very funny. It's not a serious title. I'm curious to see how they're going to handle the rest of the book, but I love the fact that they just kind of all jump different dimensions and do stuff. So really cool book so far. Another one I haven't read yet, unfortunately, Illuminati #2. I didn't read the first one yet. Mainly picked this one up for the wife because she had interest in the first one. She went with me to the shop today. She saw #2 and she was like, I need to get that for my stack. So this is more for her, but I do need to read these because I'm curious what the going on is in this and if it has any major ramifications in the Marvel Universe. And that, from what I'm seeing, is all the Marvel haul this week. Now we're going to get into DC. This was one of the runners for Book of the Week. There's actually quite a few I had to really choose from. I narrowed it down at the end. You'll see what it is. But we have Batman Europa #2. I absolutely loved the first issue. It was the pick of the week a week or so ago. Absolutely fantastic book. If you're not reading it, check out the first issue at least. The book itself is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, the inside staying about the same. I absolutely love how this book looks. So pick it up if you can. Next up, we have We Are Robin number 7, which is Robin War Part 4. This was the one I was most curious in because of the whole Robin War thing. I think I've got most of it now, so I can kind of sit down and start reading some of the Robin War stuff. I've been kind of putting it to the side until I got a few more pieces, simply because I just want to read as much of the story in one shot as I can. I hate when I can't read all of a story. It's one of the reasons I really like trades more than single issues sometimes, because I like being able to sit down and just read a whole story. Next up, Batman and Robin Eternal number 11. Again, I need to look up and see if there's any that are going to be part of the Robin War. A little surprised that this one, as of yet, has not been included into that. So I'm curious to see how this is interacting outside of all of the Robin War stuff. Then we're getting into the Vertigo line of things. We have picked up here Lucifer number 1. This was kind of a tie between my wife and I. I definitely had some interest in it. I showed it to her at the comic shop. She was like, I need to pick that up. So it's a book. I want to say this is kind of a relaunch, kind of a retelling of the character, if memory serves. So I'm curious to see what they do here. I never really read a lot of the older Lucifer books. My wife did purchase, I believe it's the first trade. So I want to read that. She just confirmed it from the other room that she did buy the first trade. So I'd like to read that and then kind of take a read on this one. And then also, and this is for her as well, Red Thorn number 2. I wasn't a huge fan of the first issue. It's kind of, I don't really know how to describe it. It's kind of a monster romance looking thing. I'm not really sure. I'll probably read the second issue just to kind of get a continuation of the first one, because the first one kind of set things going, but it didn't really feel like a lot was going on. So I'm curious to see what they do in this one at least. And that takes care of the DC pull. Now we're going to get into the independent stuff, Image, stuff like that. And we're going to start with I Hate Fairyland number 3. Again, it's one of those books where I like the art. I'm going to stick around as long as Mr. Young is drawing all the stuff. The story itself, unless it starts getting significantly better, the story isn't doing anything for me, unfortunately. But of course, I got the regular, and I got the not safe for work version. Stop making me buy 2 books, please. Just one cover. One cover. That's all I need. I just need one cover. I'll buy 2, though, as long as you keep making them. Next up, another book that almost was pick of the week. Huck number 2. I like how it kind of looks like Hulk. That's kind of a cool looking thing they got going on. Really, really enjoyed the first issue. I can't wait to get into this one. I'm curious to see how this kind of Superman without being a Superman story goes. I really, really liked this book, though, so I'm hoping 2 continues on as well as the first one did. Another one, almost book of the week. Klaus or Claus. I never really know how to say these words. I need to look things up. Number 2. I really liked the first one. It was a little goofy, kind of making a vagabond warrior Santa Claus. And it's kind of playing into the old story of Santa Claus comes to town and has to make the town happy. If you've ever seen Santa Claus is Coming to Town, it kind of follows that kind of closely, except in a bizarre way. I don't really know how to explain it, but it is definitely a darker retelling of Santa Claus. But I really enjoyed the first issue. I cannot wait to get into this. It'll be a holiday tradition when I have children. I'll read them Klaus as they grow up and go, this is how Santa truly came to be. As long as it doesn't become excessively violent or something. Then we have the Tithe number 7. I love this series. On the back, there's actually a little ad for Symmetry. I loved the first issue of Symmetry. Showed that off, I believe it was last week. Very good book. But the Tithe, absolutely great book. Just kind of the way Hawkins writes about, religion and how it's interacting in America and it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. It's, kind of a, I don't want to say necessarily taboo topic, but it's not something that a lot of people like to talk about or discuss. So I think a comic like that kind of brings, like right now it's focusing on relations with the Islamic community and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see a comic book touching on that kind of stuff. So I really recommend it. I believe the second arc started on issue 5, so if you have interest in that, start there and work your way forward. But if you really want to read all of it, the trade's already out, and then you can pick it up. I highly recommend it. But that brings us to the comic book pick of the week. The first issue of this was kind of a surprise. I did not anticipate to like it as much as I did. So I'm very, very excited to get into the second issue of this book. That is Superman American Alien #2. I love the first book. It was kind of what I was hoping it was going to be. It was going to be looking at Superman as a young person trying to adjust to his powers. Because a lot of times in other stories, it's always seemed like Superman just immediately took to his super strength, or took to flying, or took to the laser vision. And the first issue kind of explored that he didn't really have a lot of control of his powers in the beginning. So it's really cool to see a story exploring that instead of just being like, oh, look, Superman was always able to be perfect, where it's kind of showing that he has his imperfections. So if you have not read the first one, that's kind of a basic idea of what the first story was. I didn't really give away too much, but that's kind of the first issue. Really, really good. That's why this one is my pick of the week. It's a very interesting story. I hope they can pick it up, especially since it looks like Clark gets into a little trouble, gets himself arrested, and goes to juvie or something here. So, pick of the week, Superman American Alien #2. So, that is everything I got this week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. As usual, give me a like if you liked it. Leave a comment down there saying what you're reading. If there's anything I missed this week, I feel like there was something else I wanted to pick up, but I can't remember what it was. I might think of it later. Make a little note of it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know. And I guess that is it. So until next video, this is Adam, signing off.